John J. Allen here, Rule Man Life. All right. Normally I'm helping folks, and especially men, encourage them to move from the countryside out into the city. But today's video is going to be quite different. Now, we all know what happened on Wednesday, and we got a problem. And this problem goes back over three generations. Somebody thought it was a good idea to import Marxism into the country back in the first part of the 20th century, and now it's come to a head. And unfortunately, we need to do stuff that gets rid of it once and for all. And I'm going to go through 5 points of what needs to be done to get rid of it once and for all. And I call it mind. Marxism is nothing but a mind virus. That's all it is. And so the last points can be the most important because it's going to establish once and for all that this stuff cannot spread any farther and be infecting people's psyche. That's essentially what it is. It's a toxic, godless ideology. So I'm going to address that. The first one I'm going to do is I want to say how sorry I am for the loss of this man, Charlie Kirk. He is a couple months older than my oldest daughter, who practices, who's in the medical field in the Midwest. And so this hit hard for me. It almost felt like something happened to her. But they're so close in age that it really affected me, because I have a child that it was his age. So he was cut down in the prime of his life. My condolences go out to the Kirk family, his close friends, and all the staff at Turning Point USA. He was a giant among men, such as JFK, his brother Robert, and of course Martin Luther King Jr. They also suffered the same fate as Charlie. And after all the vigils are done and to laying him down the rest, the time to act and have concrete actions to stop this nonsense once and for all needs to happen. So the first point, all funding spent on these violent groups such as Antifa, BLM, and other radical left-wing groups that promote violent protest and riots must be seized by the Justice Department and people responsible for funding these radical groups, and have them, not only their funds seized, but charge them with racketeering and seditious conspiracy against the United States. No more riots. This ends right now. We're done with this. The American people are done with this. And Trump is in a tough spot his first term, because he didn't want to act like a goon and start getting rough with these people. He was playing a tightrope. But now he doesn't have to worry about re-election, and the time for him to do something is now. The second point that needs to be done, the second action that needs to be done, is any news organizations that promote lies and propaganda, labeling people such as conservatives and religious people as fascists, Nazis, right-wing radicals, will have their FCC broadcast licenses pulled and canceled. It will no longer use the airwaves to promote such vile and outrageous, slanderous labels. Now, I'm going to give you an example of what fascism is. Okay, so my mom, the first 5.5 years of her life, lived under Nazi rule. She's born in November 1938, and her mom and her cousin would trade their farm products, because my grandfather was a farmer. They would trade farm products in exchange for shoes and clothes that the Jewish families in the area made. A lot of them were tailors, a lot of them were in clothing, and they made stuff clothing and clothes products because market wasn't worth anything. None of them really had it. So there was a lot of bargaining, a lot of trading, even up until the 30s and the 40s. And so they had agreed to meet this one family to pick up clothing or whatever in exchange for whatever they needed to eat. And a lot of that happened. So they show up one morning to do the exchange, and the house is boarded up, and it's got the big old sign of the Star of David and St. Jude on it. And the SS came in the middle of the night and grabbed them. And we all know what happened to them. And so they went back to my grandfather, and my grandfather knew exactly what was going on. But if he said anything, see, he lived in a small village. The agricultural area really didn't get affected much by the war. And until a tank company from Montgomery's 30 Corps Army came rolling through their village, and they handed my mom, when she's only 6 years old, chocolate, 5.5 years old, chocolate, and along with all her friends, and they were happy. And then my grandfather finally said the nightmare's over. So that's fascism. I take that to heart. That's true fascism. And of course, my mom, 20-something years later, 15 years later, came to the United States and married my dad. So, all right, so part of that, part of this second point, action, all forms of false opinionated journalism, not based on actual facts and true information, to be eliminated from a journalism curriculum and get journalism back to what it used to be, just the facts. What actually happened. No opinions, no nothing. No twisting terms to fit a narrative. Because we all know what happens or why journalists do this. If they don't like a certain political angle or certain political party, they'll twist it to make that situation look bad for a certain group of people. All right, third point. Any universities and colleges that are promoting and teaching Marxist and communist ideologies, their state and federal funding must be terminated and go back to an industry-specific type of curriculum that benefits both the student and the field of industry, which benefits society as a whole. That means none of this social engineering garbage. Those days are gone. If you're puking propaganda to these students, they are going to turn into the very thing that is corrupting the society. And I think Joseph Stalin, who was a mass murdering rampager in the Soviet Union for 34 years, he probably said it best more than any other world leader. He says, give me a young person starting from his or her age of reason, they can 8, 9, 10, 11, when they can start reasoning, figuring things out on their own, for 8 years, and I will turn him into a Bolshevik for life. That means he's going to turn him into a Marxist, a flat-out communist Marxist. And that's what's going on in these universities and these colleges. These aren't colleges of higher learning. These are colleges and universities of indoctrination. There's a big difference. And this stuff needs to come to an end. So, any funding? Now, private funding, you can't help that. It's going to get these universities are going to get money. But any public money from state or federal government, nope, gone. All right, number 4. All at the congressional federal level, we need to bring back HUAC and SUAC. What is HUAC and SUAC? HUAC is the House Committee on Un-American Activities. SUAC is the Senate, Senate, Select Committee on Un-American Activities. These committees were formed in 1938, and they went to 1975. I don't know why they shut them down, but they did. And Senator Joseph McCarthy, he's famous for being the chairman of on the Senate side. He realized, he's a senior senator from Wisconsin. He realized the dangers of socialism and communism, and the country, and if it was unchecked, it would metastasize into an anti-capitalistic, anti-free market propaganda issue aimed at destroying our American way of life and turning our society or nation into some kind of hybrid of the Soviet Union at that time. That's what these guys were trying to do, even in the early days. And Joe McCartney and the guys in the House said, nah, we need to expose this. It was really prevalent from the Hollywood types. A lot of Hollywood types, they took off for Europe because they didn't want to be hauled in for Congress. We need to bring these committees back, which is the House and Senate committees on un-American activities. Critical we go back to doing this. All right. So the final point, the final action needs to be taken after all this is done and we take control of our young people's minds and get them back to a capitalistic, free market, free thinking without this Marxist communist garbage filling their heads up. There needs to be a constitutional amendment. Now, John Jay, you know that free speech is free speech. Not so fast. So, this bans all promotions and teachings of Marxist ideology. We need to make a First Amendment to the First Amendment. Okay? And it's spread of communism throughout the United States. That means we need to take the First Amendment and put an asterisk or B below it saying that we ban all teachings of Marxist and communist ideology. A lot of people are not going to like that, but that's tough. These left-wing organizations have turned violent. The last time we had violence at this level was the 1960s. And the left wants to bring back that violence that happened in the 1960s. And we're done with this. The American people, the silent majority, is silent no longer. We're not putting up with this nonsense anymore. So Karl Marx's writings were thrown on the world stage by this German journalist in the 1840s, a full 50 years after our drafting of our U.S. Constitution, and that was done in the late. I think it was ratified in 1887. No, excuse me, 1787. And a year later, Washington ran for president, and they all voted him in, and he got inaugurated on March 4th of 1889. No, 1789. Get my centuries mixed up. So that was in the 18th century. So Marx's teachings come in 50 years on the world stage after our Constitution was written. Well, if the Founding Fathers knew how destructive these writings were, they would have done something about it in a U.S. constitutional amendment. And so we need to modify this First Amendment and ban this type of writing and ban this type of ideology, because it is a demonic, godless, amoral ideology. And it was written way after our Constitution. So, in conclusion, I urge President Trump to turn into Abraham Lincoln when it comes to this poisonous, amoral, demonic Marxist ideology, like Lincoln did with the institution of slavery. No mercy and complete annihilation of this ideology. Can't be any more books. No more writing of it. No more preaching of it in our colleges. Okay? You want to go preach at Marxism? Go to Europe. But you're not going to do it anymore in this country. We're done with this. We're a constitutional representative democrat republic. And this ideology is a poison to that republic. It needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped right now. You know, we're going to go down the road of the 1960s where now politicians are going to get murdered. No more. We're done with this. We're done with the political assassinations. And unfortunately, it cost Charlie Kirk his life. So that's my solution to it. I'm sure Charlie might have thought differently about this solution, but this is the only way this is gonna get resolved. I'm gonna post this on the different platforms. Hopefully people take it and it goes viral. But this stuff comes to an end. The American people are sick of it. We're tired of this ideology. We're tired of young people getting sent to college and them getting brainwashed by this nonsense. We're done with this. Mom and Dad are lifelong farmers, lifelong Republicans. We knew this was all about. And this country really changed after Jack Kennedy got killed in Dallas in 1963. And the country's never been the same since. So those are the 5 points that need to be done. I hope this is an inspiration, or I hope this gives some people some of these. I made this up all on my own. I didn't get this from anybody else. So hopefully you guys learned something about what it's going to take to get rid of this nonsense once and for all. I'm John J. Allen, Real Man Life. And if you're in the cities, gentlemen, get out and find a piece of good ground and mark your claim. That's what you need to do. Okay? Signing off. Thank you.